What's up guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're making a beat. So today's beat is going to be a little bit special because to make it, we're actually going to be using my brand new and free mini sample pack that I've put together for you guys as a small thank you for rocking with me and supporting the channel. Roughly, we're at about 1,600 subscribers, and I wanted to do this whenever I hit 1,000, but with the whole move situation, things just got a little crazy. Anyway, before we get started, I do want to show you guys what's inside the pack so you guys know what to expect if you decide to download it. So the pack is actually called the Production Spark Kit, as it is meant to spark creativity in the case that you need a jump start, and the samples inside range from smooth pianos to trappy ARP vibes, so you get a little bit of everything. So whenever you download the sample pack, you're gonna get these 5 loops here: Bottomless Mimosas, Casablanca, Nirvana, Skyfall, and Vices. And whenever you click on one of the folders, you'll see that you get the sample, of course, that is formatted in 24-bit wave format. But on top of that, what I've also done is I've included the key signature and the BPM just to make it a little bit easier for you guys. On top of that, you'll see that there's 2 other folders here. These contain the stems for each sample with and without the effects that I used whenever I created them. So let's say, for example, that you like the loop, but you don't want to use the entire thing. Maybe you just like one of the sounds that was in there. So you would come in here, pick the appropriate folder, select the sound or the stem, import it into your DAW, and get to work. As an added bonus, I've also included the MIDI notes to every major and minor scale. So if you guys are familiar with Studio One, then you know that we have this feature where you can select a key signature for your song, and then it'll literally tell you what notes to play in your piano roll. Now, most DAWs are starting to come out with this feature themselves, but in the case that your software still doesn't, then I've included these here for your convenience. Now, I'm gonna be demonstrating how to use these MIDI scale files towards the end of the video, so stick around if you wanna see that. Last but not least, of course, we have the sample pack terms and conditions, or terms of use. Now, please read these before you actually use the samples, but essentially what they state is that the loops are not royalty free, but they are master clearance guaranteed. I've actually made a whole video about this, so I'm gonna link it up top here if you want to know more about the difference. But essentially what it means is that if you're using them for independent purposes, then you're good to go. Keep your money, no hassles there. However, if they get placed with a major label, then you would just have to come back and negotiate splits and co-production credit. Now, to download the pack, all you have to do is click on the first link in the description, or simply head over to vonsolo.com/sparkkit, put your email in there, and you're good to go. But without further ado, let's jump right in. Okay, so to start, I already have one of the samples loaded up here. This one's called Skyfall, and we see that it's in the key of C minor and 88 BPM, so that's the first thing I'm gonna do. Change it to 88 BPM, and let's take a listen to that. Okay, so the sample's cool, but I only want to use the piano piece of it. So like I mentioned before, you would come in here, go to your appropriate folder. So we're in Skyfall, and then I want to use it with the effects. So I'm going to click this here, and then you'll see that we have the piano stem right there. So I'm just going to drag it in to Studio One. Okay, so I know that the main part of this loop is from here to here. So that's all I'm going to use. I'm going to delete the rest. And that essentially leaves me with about 8 bars of this sample that I can just loop over and over again. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to get to work. And then as always, we'll kind of break down the beat together towards the end of the video. So let's go. All right, and we're done. Let's check it out. All right, so to start off, let's break down the sample, of course, and what I did to it. So let's bring in the original piano back. And this was in 88 BPM, but I sped everything up to 98. And so let me bring it down back to 88 first to get the chops that I want. So I took this part and this part, got rid of the rest, scoot it back down, and then let's change it back to 98 and make sure that everything is on time. Now the next thing I did was I pitched down my sample by 2 semitones. So if we were originally in C minor, 2 semitones down would put us at A sharp minor. So the original sample, the piano sample, sounds like this. And then once we bring it down 2 semitones, we get this. Now from here, the next thing I did was I chopped this sample in half, so here, and then I chopped each half into their own halves. So here and here. From here, what I did was I replaced the second half of the first part, so this here, with the second half of the second part. So that there, go ahead and delete this. And then this is essentially what I'm gonna be looping over and over again, and now we get this. Now from here, I wanted to have a little bit more space, so if a vocalist were to get on it, there'd be room for him or for her to do what they have to do. So I actually came in here and I deleted these sections in the middle. So there and there, and we get this. Now to make it more fluid and cohesive, I went ahead and I added some plugins, so let's check them out. Now the first thing I did was I went ahead and I added a looperator. Now I am on the preset called Offbeat Reverse. You can find that in the reverse category, and then Offbeat Reverse right there. And that makes it sound like this. From here, to kind of fill in these gaps and not make it sound kind of cut off, I went ahead and I added a delay, so an echo boy, just a 1/4 note delay. You guys can copy my settings there if you want, but that turns it into this. And last but not least, we added a wow 2, which is essentially just a filter plugin. You can use an EQ for this. I just happen to have this handy. And now the whole sample sounds like this. And then all we have to do at this point is just go ahead and duplicate this to create a full loop. And we're done. Now, if you're wondering why this sample looks different than this one, it's simply because I took the chops, this here, and I bounced it down, or I printed it with all of the effects just to save CPU, but it's the same thing. They're both the same. But okay, moving on. So we have the sample. The next thing I added was a choir. Now the choir was kind of like very subtle, kind of served as an underbelly just to kind of give the beat a little bit more depth, and that ends up sounding like this. Next, we went ahead and we started to add some closed hats. So for this, I went ahead and I laid them down on my keyboard just regularly, and then I went back and I added some pitches just to kind of make it more trappy, but then we get this. Next up, we had the open hat and the snare. So then we get a little something like this. Next up were the kick and the crash, and that kind of just finished off the drum section for the beat. And then we get this. Now, as far as the bass goes, I went ahead and I used one of my new favorite bass VST plugins, Bassmaster. I've actually done a whole review on this plugin, so I'm gonna link that video up top here. But essentially, that bass by itself sounds like this. Just real nice and gritty. And then together, of course, with everything else, we get this. Now, last but not least, I needed something to, again, differentiate my hooks from my verses. So I went ahead and I picked up my guitar and I laid down a little riff. So the guitar riff by itself sounds like this. And then with everything else, that entire beat sounds like this. And that was it, guys. That was the entire beat. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Now, again, this was the Skyfall sample off my new and free mini sample pack titled the Production Spark Kit, which you guys can get, of course, like I said, for free by clicking on the first link in the description or simply heading over to devonsolo.com/sparkkit. This is just a small thank you for me to you for sticking with me and for, you know, watching my content week after week. Now, before I sign off, I did say that I was going to show you guys how to use the MIDI files, the MIDI scales, in the case that your DAW doesn't have the auto key feature. So let's go ahead and check it out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of get rid of all this for now. I can bring it back later. But let's pretend we are starting from scratch and we are using the original piano sample again, but we're not changing the key. So it's still in the key of C minor, and you wanna figure out what notes fall into the C minor key. Okay, so the first thing you would do is you would go to the folder that contains the MIDI scale files. So right there. We're working in minor, so click the minor folder, and then we would be working in C minor. So just go ahead and bring this MIDI file right on over. Now, the first thing you're gonna see is you're gonna get this weird looking block. It might look different on your DAW depending on what you're using, but I mean, the theory, the idea behind it is the same thing. So although it looks weird, if you double click on it, you'll see that all the notes for that scale, that particular scale, the C minor scale, are highlighted. Now, this is a MIDI file, so it doesn't contain any information. But the goal really with this is to make this into what we call a ghost track or a ghost note track, which essentially just puts it in the background. You're not really editing these notes, but they are visible, so they kind of serve as a guide to tell you where to put your notes on the piano roll. So then what I would do at this point is I would kind of just leave this in the background. Let's say that I'm trying to record the choir again. So then what I would do is I would create a MIDI region or open up the piano roll, whatever your DAW requires. So this is the piano roll for the choir. So then I would enable the MIDI scale track, but make sure that you can't edit it. So for me, for Studio One, what that means is that I have to make sure that this little circle is turned on, but that the pen is not turned on. If the pen is turned on, that means that I can edit the notes. I don't want to do that. I just want to have the notes be visible. And then you can see that they're kind of in the background, but you can't really edit them. So then from here, it's quite easy to know where to place your notes, because anywhere that has a highlighted region, that is a note that falls within your scale, and that is good to go. Anywhere that's not highlighted, just stay away from. All right, so let's go ahead and pretend that I'm just building a melody. This probably serves better for melodies, but I'm gonna go ahead and just place one here, you know, and maybe you could place another one up here, up here. All these notes would be fine because they fall within the C minor scale, but you could not place one here. This is not highlighted. This is not in the scale. You would have to go down or go up. But that is it, guys. That is essentially the purpose of these MIDI note files for you to use as ghost notes or ghost note tracks. Now, the application might be a little different for your DAW. I think in FL Studio, it's like file, import, MIDI file. Again, it might be different. I'm not too sure. But the idea behind these are all the same. They're just to help you, to guide you if you need a little bit more help with your theory whenever you're creating melodies. But that is it for me, guys. Now, again, don't forget to download your pack if you want it. It's free. First link in the description. But as always, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already. But I will see you guys on the next one.